Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Engineering the Markets. My name is Jared. Today is February 23rd, 2022. Let's take a look at what we've got on the docket today. And as always, happy hump day to everybody. So just real quick look back. We're still in an expected move range of about $121 this week. No real change from yesterday's activity. We are seeing, of course, more downside momentum in the market. Market's still trying to continuously test these lower bound ranges that have been set back in early January. And there's still a lot of uncertainty with regards to our geopolitical risk that's occurring currently. We've got some news-based catalysts yesterday that provided a bit of an afternoon recovery in the market. But overall, we're still very much in a daily downtrend. We're very much trying to basically anticipate the next move of the market. And yet the testing of these lower bound supports has a lot of technical traders along with investors nervous as to if we lose this area and start to see more downside, what does the risk in the market look like? How much lower can the market go? And if we do see another leg down, will it be as dramatic as the initial leg down in January? So these are all concerns that the market currently has from a price perspective. We're seeing a little bit of divergence in regards to the lack of fear in the market to facilitate that move. For example, yesterday we talked about how the VIX continues to spike in these moments of downside pressure. But as you can see on yesterday's session, the volatility actually came off of the VIX throughout most of the session. We actually saw a steep decline in the afternoon recovery. Even though we did spike above 30, we're unable to close or essentially hold above that sort of psychological price level for the VIX. Now, doesn't necessarily mean we won't see that eventually. Ideally, in regards to just a trending market, you could argue that the VIX is somewhat in an uptrending mode. We are getting higher highs and higher lows, but what we're starting to see is that the highs being made in the VIX, even though this isn't necessarily a directly tradable product, they're not necessarily holding. The market is not confirming that this trend, quote unquote, is facilitative of new highs each step that we make to the upside. So little bit of short-term divergence here with regards to fear. And once again, just trying to time that better with things like volatility futures. Still in a marketplace that is in backwardation, where your active March and even things like your April and May contracts are slightly skewed to where shorter month or short-term volatility is priced higher than back month. This is starting to flatten out. And if we can see things like our active and our future contracts start to once again flatten and then hopefully go back into contango, then that can be a signal for the market to, at the very least, recover and start to see more testing. Go back to our SPY. More testing of our retracement line. You know, the best case scenario here is that bulls do have to hold a price. They have to confirm support in some way. And then in the short term, we're trying to get back to our resistance zone. Longer term, obviously, to change the overall trend, which currently we are in a daily downtrend. but we do not yet have a confirmed weekly downtrend, although we are very close. So burden of proof, of course, is on the bulls, and some clues as to whether or not certain markets might facilitate this recovery are going to be seen in relative positioning of different index products. For example, the NASDAQ, which has been one of the key reasons for technical weakness in this market, as we can see, is also trying to confirm a weekly downtrend. The idea here is quite simple. We had a weekly swing low. We made a new high, arguably forming a higher low, but there was a lack of new highs printed. So this is where the trend started to diverge. We started to make a weekly lower high, and then of course breaking these lows, albeit this was not a swing low, that formed a new high. So it was not necessarily the most important low for the trend to break. This one was. We did break it, and as we are seeing once again another weekly lower high starting to form, this market is quote unquote on the edge of that potential breakdown or hopefully double bottom. And this is where timing this market is quite challenging, because we have things essentially in a 50-50 scenario. If we see lower prices, if the momentum continues, then this is likely going to break this low, and people will start to claim things like head and shoulder structures forming in the market, where even though this is not a horizontal head and shoulder, it is an indication of relative distribution that the market is printing. And what we're essentially trying to do is find whether the market can negate these patterns. Because if we do break down, and if we start to clear our relative neckline, this market's measured move is quite dramatic. In terms of just a head and shoulder structure, we measure from high to low, and we project this out. We're talking about the NASDAQ coming back to the 250s. And this is a not an all at once sort of fell swoop, but it is the patterns measured move. And a lot of people are fearful of that event. Now you counter that with products like the IWM, which, as we know, was one of our weaker overall indices. We're talking about a product that from high to low was already in a bear market. We're talking about a downside movement here of, let's see if I can measure that again, about 23% from high to low. So technically already in a bear market at one point in time during the January sell-off. But as we can see, and as I've gone ahead and marked, we are in that back test scenario. We have a lot of overhead supply in this market. And the more likely scenario, once we did bottom in January, as evident by the volume, capitulation thesis, et cetera, one of the more oversold index products, once this market bottom, the most likely area for it to test was the range low. It was the back test of this particular range. Now, what makes this so interesting is currently people are looking at this and saying bear flag. Essentially, we've done the back test. We have not seen a breakout back above the range. And yet, this particular index is in a position of relative strength. If we're just comparing where did we sell, where did we stop selling, and where we are now, this particular market is not even testing its January lows. Even something like January 24th, this market did make a quote unquote fresh low with a lack of follow through. This market is not quite at those prices yet. So interesting divergence in the market. Lots of questionable activity in regards to what was weak is now starting to show relative strength. That is going to maybe form in a possible trade idea once the market is finding relative support. And then, of course, what the opportunity looks like and the signals that we get to take advantage of those trades. So part of today and this week's discussion is revolving around strategy. And when you're looking at a market like this, oftentimes it can be a little bit overwhelming because, one, you're coming from a market of bias. The bias, of course, is that we had one of our strongest bullish markets ever in the past year. So a lot of market participants are still in the mode of bullish. They're looking for long trades. They're only looking for upside opportunity. And of course, the market is not necessarily presenting that as clearly as it did last year, especially for poor location trades. The idea that last year, even if you had put a trade on near a relative swing high, as long as you were able to hold on the pullback, you were rewarded at some point with the market making new swing highs as the trend continued. That is not the case anymore. And if you are in poor location in this market, not only are you feeling some pain, but additionally, the market doesn't even have to reclaim those prices anytime soon. And eventually this market may capitulate those poor location traders. But in terms of strategy and looking at the here and now, let's say you believe, and you have good reason to believe, that we're nearing some support. We're getting into potentially that double bottom scenario. It's obviously going to show itself at a later time as we're just now getting to support once again. And you understand that if you're wrong, the market has a good chance to collapse, essentially to sell off into a little bit of oblivion in regards to where is the next support in this market, what's the downside target. And if I'm wrong, I don't necessarily want to hold that risk in what is essentially the head and shoulder structure and the eventual potential confirmation of what that looks like. You understand the risk, but you also want to step in with a little bit of upside potential in the case that the market reverses. So what's a good way to consider this type of strategy? Well, as always, we're going to start with the option market. Option market is a great way to define that risk. And it also means that you're not out there looking for shares. One of the challenges in this market currently is that we have a lot of gap risk. Every single morning, the market appears to be gapping either up or down. And then, of course, we spend the entire intraday session watching volatility in the S&Ps and the NASDAQ. And when I say volatility, I'm talking about relative ranges. The S&Ps, of course, are moving the likes of high to low anywhere from 2 to 3% every single session. So when you think about that, every single day, and maybe over the course of a couple of days, we're talking about relative performance that can sometimes take a full year to essentially materialize. You know, the average S&P return, a lot of people sort of claim 7 to 8% most years. We're seeing that in a couple of days. So the volatility is quite high. It's great for intraday trade, but what if you're a swing trader? What if you're sort of a position trader? And what if you hold overnight? What are some ways to step into that and maybe take a little bit of that edge away in regards to profit potential in order to protect the risk of being incorrect or being in the wrong location of the market? So one strategy that tends to work out fairly well, and this is a more conservative strategy. It's not meant for home run trades. It's actually meant to sort of be I would say an intermittent strategy. The market changes and you're unprepared for sort of the adjustment, or you're just looking for something to kind of keep you afloat while you're waiting for more clarity, especially from a directional sense. This is a good strategy to consider implementing, obviously with some nuance and edge that you can add with technical indicators. But the main idea here is revolving around the vertical. So we talk about using verticals in our option trading, which for those unfamiliar, a vertical for the most part is going to be simply buying and selling in the same series. And usually you're going to be talking about the same side of the option series, either calls or puts. So classic example, you want to be long the S&Ps, you buy a 430, you sell a 435. That is a $5 call vertical. It is a debit call vertical or a bull call vertical. And then of course, comes with a cost. You have to pay for this type of trade. This is not a credit spread. You'd have to flip it in order for that to be true. And the relative cost is indicative of the potential profit that could be made on this vertical. So one of the most easiest ways to figure this out is how wide is your vertical and how much are you paying for it. That is the simple calculation of the most profit you can make once the vertical closes. And in this case, it would have to close with both strikes in the money, where you essentially close it or let it expire in those potential ranges. So yeah, and we can look at like an analyze tab or a risk profile tool to see that. You're looking at paying 272, in this case, just locking in this debit price. Your max reward, as you notice, maybe on the bottom here, 228, anywhere in this upper bound range, no matter how far the S&P goes. The S&P closes at 1,000 over the next couple of weeks, then you're still making $228. But whenever looking at this, it still has that bias of I'm a bit bullish, I'm putting on some risk. If you're doing it out of the money, then of course you're a little bit more speculative. You're not necessarily paying for intrinsic value. And if you're doing it in the money, especially with both strikes in the money, you're actually somewhat limiting your potential reward, because you often have to pay over 50% in order to put on this vertical, which of course limits the max profit. In this case, a $5 wide vertical paying 323, you're limiting your profit to about 177. So just, you know, minus that 500, or 100 minus your debit. So what's a good way to kind of balance this out? Introducing, or I guess welcome, the in and out spread. And the idea here is to essentially bridge that line between buying pure intrinsic value, which is going to be more costly and limits the upside, buying out of the money value, which doesn't have intrinsic pricing and additionally is a bit more speculative. So the market would have to start to get into those ranges a bit more quickly. Instead, you can find that middle ground, where in this case, and we're looking at the S&P, which closed at about 430. So right now 430 is technically at the money. Let's say yesterday I wanted to open this up and I wanted to be a bit bullish for the next couple of weeks, let's say 14 days in the S&P. I don't want to put on a lot of risk, because if I'm wrong, the market's going to sell off quite hard. And whatever that downside looks like, I don't know where the next support is. It essentially could be the next bear market that we could be entering. But if I'm right, I want to just have a little bit of upside exposure, and I want my probability of profit, or my potential to actually win on this trade, to be quite high. So I can be wrong, especially in the short term, but if the market moves up slightly, not necessarily an all-out breakout, just enough to where we're getting maybe a retest of the range, or just getting back to some prices that are evident on things like volume profile, that is something I want to make money on. So in this case, let's say I want to open up that type of spread. We could do something like a 430, which is pretty much at or in right outside the money. And then we sell a 432. So for the S&Ps yesterday, if we close at about 429, and it's mostly because I'm missing strikes here. Let me see if I can go one more series out. Yeah, that's better. So let's do 429 to 431, just to simplify the example. So here, what am I doing? Well, I'm buying a 429 call. That call, if I had opened it yesterday, would have been in the money. Slightly. Not a lot, just enough to where it has some of the intrinsic characteristics of an in-the-money call. What am I doing on the other side? I'm selling a 431. So that one's slightly out of the money. It doesn't have any intrinsic value, but it does have other properties that I'm selling. For example, if I look at some of the Greeks, what I find is that I'm actually selling some of my theta risk away. And typically this actually removes most of my theta risk. So this vertical, if I put it on, doesn't have the downside of theta decay. Essentially, theta is 0. So I can hold this position pretty much until the end of its expiration and not worry about it decaying in premium, because I bought something and I sold something with the same theta. It negates. What about Vega? Volatility exposure. I've actually reduced that down to near 0 as well. And this is one of the key benefits of verticals in general. Most of the time when you're out buying calls and puts, you're inherently exposing yourself to the high volatility, I'll say it twice to indicate the hilarity of it, but volatility is volatile right now. We're seeing IV changes that are quite drastic. So by doing this, you're reducing your Vega exposure as well. So you don't have to worry about that as much either. So where does the profit come in? Where can you get your benefit? Well, I opened this up about 16 days out in time. Let's go ahead and move forward in time, and let's say the S&Ps are roughly in the same spot, closer to a week later, so about the 9-day series. Now remember, I'm opening this for about $1.20. I'll just say $1.25 for clarity. That 429 to 431, guess what? The S&P hasn't moved much. Neither has this vertical. I really haven't lost anything, and yet I'm still in a position of potential upside. Now let's look at the case where the S&P does move a little bit. And we just talked about how quick the S&Ps have been moving. So in this case, I'm choosing a product that can move anywhere from 5 to 10 points every single session. I don't know which direction it's going to be, but if it moves in my favor, it won't take me too long to get $5 or $10 in the money, because of course that's the potential ranges we're seeing week over week. So in this case of 429, 431, let's say it gets $5 more in the money. What that looks like is essentially the same pricing as a 424 to 426. I've just moved those strikes further in the money. And you'll see here that, okay, the debit really didn't go up that much. We're talking about maybe 10, 15 cents, and maybe the mid strike closer to about 145. But let's talk about what that means from a percentage basis, because a lot of people sort of miss this idea that the percentage movement is actually pretty dramatic. The S&P only moved $5, but something that was originally priced at 125, and let's say if I can close it at 150, we'll divide that by 125. I've gotten about 20% on this potential spread. And what I've done is, yes, I'm taking the debit risk. I've essentially allowed myself to buy some upside risk in this market, but I've also capped my downside. No matter what happens, if the market goes to 400, this spread is only going to lose me $1.25. That's the most I can lose, and it's an acceptable risk. The advantage you gain is that by pricing it this way and by essentially constructing it tight to at the money, what you're seeing is a high probability event that you get into range to sell at a profit. Essentially, the probability of touch is what you're looking for. And this is something that is tied very closely to delta. But the idea is based around high percentage probability of these particular strikes being essentially, I would say, claimed by the market or addressed by the market in some way. And usually what we're looking at is 70 to 80% of at some point these types of verticals getting into those profitability zones, with the understanding that you can just put on a vertical, you can put on your limit order to sell 20-30% probability of profit or a profit potential. And then if you get hit throughout the market session, that's a successful trade. You walk away somewhat unscathed, and you're not necessarily betting bullish or bearish. You're just gaining a little bit of upside or downside exposure. You just flip it to the puts. Now let's say the S&P goes $10 in the money. Once again, 419 to 421, just moving my strikes higher. You can see that this is starting to get more and more profitable from a percentage perspective. The max reward here, of course, is only $2. You paid about $1.25. So ideally, the better pricing you're able to get, and oftentimes you can sort of get slightly out of the money, maybe look for different products that give you a little bit more edge. And you can do this across any particular product that you wish. If you want that long or short exposure, it allows you to stay risk defined with a high probability of closing with profitability. And the main goal here is actually to price it well at the beginning. You don't want to pay too much for it because it has to go more in the money and hold those prices in order to essentially claim the 30 to 50% profitability from your open to your close. We're talking percentages, not pricing. I would say last but not least, just to kind of round out this discussion, ways to gain edge around this often revolve around short-term indicators. And what I like to use is something like a 10-day volume profile study. Remember how we just talked about the S&Ps going $10 in the money? If the S&Ps are starting to breach lower, and in the case of this particular study, just starting to see the lower bounds of its volume profile, this is a way to play the return to value, the return to VPOC, the thesis idea that sometimes the markets get a bit extended in either the top or bottom direction. And by putting this position on, giving it the right amount of time, pricing it well, and obviously spreading out your risk. You can have some bullish and some bearish. Maybe some of those are actually counter each other. Some of them will work one day. You'll exit those profitably, hopefully. And then the next day, the other ones will work. You're able to capture both sides of the equation. And of course, you're just capturing those volatile movements, quick oscillations in the market where the market's gapping up and down. You're stepping in, you're risk defined, and from that point forward, you have your exposure, but you're not shooting for home runs. You're shooting for base hits. You're staying alive in a volatile market. And it gives you the same edge as traders trying to step in with shares and ideally not really seeing the type of follow through or potentially seeing a lot of risk in the case of those gap up opens or gap down opens. So hopefully this is a way to kind of expand your repertoire of different trade ideas. It's a strategy that has a lot of criteria around it, but it can be an addition to your portfolio, especially when the market is in a quote unquote non-directional bias. There's certainly a bearish lean, but are we about to see the bullish recovery? Putting that on can give you some exposure in that case. So with that said, my name is Jared. This is Engineering the Market. Trade safe, and we'll talk more tomorrow.
All right. Good morning, guys. Welcome to the pre-market prep. I hope everyone's having an amazing morning. Hopefully, you guys had an incredible day yesterday. Good morning, Norm. How you doing today? Oh, I
Oh, there we
can't.
go. It was me.
Okay. Oh, cool.
Uh, Doing well. How are you?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Can't complain. Welcome, guys, to another trading day of this week, and excited about this market. Let's take a look at what's happening. What happened last night, guys? What we had on our list, starting with Macy's. It was a weird day yesterday. I gotta say, it was funky at best for me, at least. Let's take a look here at Macy's. Macy's actually traded very well. It's a few times a year that may actually more than a few times. Macy does some pretty good things, and yesterday was one of them. You can see here this beautiful pre-market activity we had at the beginning of the trading day there. Then at the open had a beautiful takeoff here, looked very strong, and then just got very toppy around 2809, which is again that pre-market level. If you're looking for a breakout of the pre-market levels are there, you did not get it. And you can see the nice rejection and just sold off so nice into some levels down here, some highs and lows. We had low of the pre-market as well, so that was pretty nice yesterday on Macy's. Here is Facebook, beautiful breakout at the beginning, then just got very toppy. This was a great, if it wasn't for this wick here, this would have been an amazing double top. It still was, but you know, when you're looking for the mountain pass, you don't want to see that happening there. Still a nice reversal pattern here. Does break down below the VWAP, and you can see the beautiful continuation towards the bottom lows of the day at that time, and then some collapsing even further down. So Facebook again continues to be very active this morning. Not as crazy as yesterday with the volume. Things are a little bit lighter on volume today. If you look at Nvidia as well, AMD yesterday they were all at this time. Norm, if you remember, they were all sitting at a like 1.2 million, 1 million. You know, very high pre-market
Yeah.
activity. We're not seeing that today, so we'll see what gives. Here's Nvidia, very similar to what we just saw on Facebook here. We had AMD as well. Again, very similar to what we saw in the last two stocks as well. You had the pop, kind of like the double top, and then the sell off. And then we have Bob, which again was very, very choppy yesterday. Every candle overlapping the previous one, no continuation. And then it goes on this really bad a stretch here where just nothing is happening at all. So we had DKNG made a lot of noise yesterday, was on our secondary list, but you guys called it out in the chat. Look how beautiful this thing traded. Beautiful pop here. Does go on some consolidation here for the most part of the day. So you had a nice stretch at the opening bell, and then you had another one later in the afternoon on DKNG. So that is some of the stuff we had yesterday. Our gappers list this morning we'll be getting into in a second. Not a whole lot in the red, but we got some stuff here in the green today. We'll
A
see
bunch
what's
of
happening
garbage.
there. Yeah, right. It doesn't look good, and it didn't look good yesterday neither. I mean, it's just it did not look good, but we'll see. I'm sure we'll find something hopefully that we can like. You don't need a whole list. If you could find two good ones, you know you're good to go. So we'll get into that in just a sec. But before we do that, Norm, what's the latest and greatest on the overall market?
I mean, obviously, we don't have any significant data coming out today. I think there may be a Fed speaker at some point, middle of the day, but I don't see that really doing much. Obviously, the big news is Russia and what's going on there. As I've mentioned before, I've had to go really to more of a scalping mentality than I usually have, and I scalp a decent amount anyway. But um, I'm not personally comfortable holding things for extended periods because one news headline can change everything drastically. So anyway, yeah, that's where we sit. We are big news did hit entered correction territory on I can't remember which index, if it was the S&P or whatever, but regardless, that doesn't really matter when people start tuning in. They're trying to figure out what's going on with their 401k, and they hear correction. That can have consequences. We are up a little bit this morning. Seems like an indecisive market to me, despite roughly percent gap on the Qs and a little over 0.5% on the SPY. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. You gotta definitely understand the market that you are in, and this market scalping is sometimes decent. All right, let's take a look, guys. See what we have on deck here this morning. Let's start with Reggie, Regi. This one this morning is up 22%. I do not like the pre-market
Garbage.
activity on this. Yeah, it looks like garbage. Daily doesn't look good.
This one is an oil and gas company that is potentially up for sale. So
Yeah, so nothing good there. Let me get our chat over here from
people
YouTube. Good
buying it on
morning, guys, on YouTube.
speculation of a takeover.
Here we go. I didn't have our YouTube chat up, so I have it up now. So good morning there, guys. All right, let's see. Yeah, so this is not good. Doesn't look great. Let's skip on this. OSTK. This I haven't looked at this in some time. They're making some noise today, up 13%, 353,000. This thing, it can be very wild, as you can see on the daily alone. Above 100 here, nicely dropping down and now trying to make some noise. The issue with this stock for me is the amount of volume that it trades. It is extremely light, but very volatile. So that usually ends up being not the best price action. So be careful on this one. It looks like it is in play today.
It is. Yeah, like you mentioned. I mean, it's not low float. We usually consider 20-ish million and below low float, but it's at 42 and change. They had earnings this morning. I believe off the top of my head, they missed the top line, but their earnings per share were better than expected. The thing about them is that there was some news. They're involved in crypto a lot. There was news of them with a crypto exchange. So that's what they're up on this morning.
All right, excellent.
Like you
Definitely
said,
play,
it can be
guys.
tough. It can really move.
Yep. I'm going to put them here on our risky pile. Not a low flow, as Norm mentioned, sitting at 42, but you got to be careful with this thing, right? So we'll put it down. If you're all going to trade it, be aware of a number of shares. I mean, just look at this candle here. We're going from 48 to 41.78, the top of that candle. That's a big move, so be very careful. INDO this morning, Indo is up 12.5, horrible daily.
Garbage.
Sitting on the American Stock Exchange. I mean,
1.5 million share float. Indonesian oil company will not touch.
Oh, this is 1.5 million. Nah, that's horrible. All right, we'll skip on that. NU this morning also not looking great. Man, you was not kidding, Norm. I haven't looked at this list yet, but there is not a whole lot that looks great here. Let's head down over to Mara. Let's waste no time. And Mara, maybe a possible. Again, I've been keeping this one off my list. It's just for me has not been trading well. I know there's a lot of noise with the Bitcoins and all that stuff, but let's see. We'll put it as a possible. We'll come back to it. SoFi can be good at times. This morning, I'm not liking the pre-market activity. And I'll be honest, guys, I'm not a big fan of this one. Even when it looks good in the pre-market, I just think it trades horrible in the intraday. Doesn't look great in the pre-market now, so I won't be adding it to our list. I won't give them credit for this. A lot of stocks sold off yesterday, right? We had to sell off with the overall market. So on the fence.
Sion Roster from Brazil is suggesting we add Arvol to the watch list. There's no such thing as Arvol in the morning. Arvol only exists during market hours, so it cannot be added to the scanners or anything.
Yeah, and I will help you down in the scanners pre-market. SoFi, guys, I don't know. Fence, we'll put it here. Bucket, BKKT, another horrible trading stock. We'll leave that alone. Here's Joby, JOBY. Man, this is also
the Flying Death Box company. We spoke about it the other day. I'm not seeing anything fresh on it.
Doesn't look good. Let's head down over to Lowe's. All right, Lowe's. What we got with Lowe's? We have earnings or something going on. What's happening?
Yes, they had earnings this morning.
Okay, I see here also February this morning pre-market earnings. This is the only time we usually see Lowe's. Had some action last night. Looks like got gapping down here before earnings. Guys, it's a very tough stock to trade. I mean, it depends on your trading style. I know there's a few members and moderators that can do very well with this. We'll see. Space I know has some action the other day, right? We got some good, nice, beautiful breakout.
We mentioned it the other day that there were reopening reservations that had been shut down for a little while. They had earnings last night, and I believe I didn't dig too much into it, but the headlines seem to say that they have it was only like a week and a half ago that they have 750 reservations.
Already 750?
So it's on fire, but they're trying to find something to assemble aircraft or whatever call their thing.
And for
you know,
those
the
that think
thing.
750 is quite a bit, because I think you can only fit what, 5 people on a ship or something.
I can't
It's
remember
a
how
very
many
low
they can do,
number.
but I don't even know if it's that. It's like 3, I think. It's a lot of flights.
So 750 is a lot of flights, guys. So yeah, let's see where this goes. Right now, not looking great. Again, we'll have to see how that news plays out. Doesn't have great volume at the moment. All right, let's stop here,
OST.
guys.
I
Yep.
will say OSTK is popping hard right now.
Let's pop over to that.
It is popping hard.
OSTK.
Just
Oh,
watch
here we
out
go.
because I've had my eye on it. The spread is nasty at times.
Yeah, yeah. Very, very careful with this one, guys. Definitely in play today. We have it down here on our risky pile because you do have to be careful with that one. But yeah, looking very active this morning. We'll keep an eye on that one. All right, we'll stop here. Actually, I'm going to look at DKNG because I know this one was being looked at quite a bit yesterday. This morning, though, not a whole lot going on. Their daily is very interesting, though. You know, we had the gap down, the sell-off. Yesterday, we gapped down some more. But we recover a lot of the sell-off from the previous day. This would have been on Friday. So let's see where this goes. Let's see where this goes today. We'll put it as a paso for now and see if anything comes out of that. All right, nothing that I am in love with at the moment. Let's see what's capping down. KOD, KOD getting KO'd here. I mean, wow, this thing is down 75%. What is this? I mean,
It's a biotech. They had some bad results on a phase 2 and 3 study that was released for a eye treatment.
Man, I'm telling you, you have to have some serious guts or no guts to be able to withstand.
Yeah, I can.
holding
Well, and
these.
it's that's a scary thing about biotech and holding them
Yeah,
overnight. I mean,
yeah,
it's some of the big ones you don't have like a Gilead. It just doesn't move that much. It's kind of
right.
whatever.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
yeah, these smaller ones whew, just get
wow,
destroyed.
$50 to $12, just like that. So, again, I
And
don't
it's
know how.
gone.
Yeah, I don't know how good this is going to be today, guys. Usually, when you get this drop, you get a lot of choppiness at the bell. There might be some scalping opportunities. You know what? I'm curious to see what is going to go from here. This will be our entertainment stock for today, entertainment purposes, but not really something that I think is going to trade well. VRT looks horrible in the pre-market. Daily doesn't look great. It is down 33%, but there's just nothing happening here. 800,000 shares traded, but look how this is trading this morning. This is brutal. So we'll skip on that one. RXT. Not much volume, gap down of 27%, but again, definitely not one that looks good at all. Rack Space Technology.
Yeah, Rackspace. They had earnings last night. They trade very thin. Usually about, I think their average volume's 850,000,
Yeah,
850,000 a day. So
and they're not looking to break that today because this pre-market activity is very light. So nothing overly exciting there. MNDY Monday.com. This one is dropping down 21% here, 235,000. I mean, you could tell this thing trades very, very thin. 1.4. It's the highest volume we traded in the last 2 months. So that kind of sets the tone there. But they are down on earnings this morning, so maybe they can be in play. The spread here, not
spread is
great.
nasty.
Yeah, so yeah. That might get better in the pre-market and at the market open, but either way, this thing looks very thin.
Trades thin.
Very, very careful.
Israeli IT software company.
So on top of that is foreign as well. I mean, guys, if you take 100 shares on this, right, and this thing can move, $5, $10, $20 in some candles. I mean, how do you manage your risk?
Already talking about it too much.
Yeah, I'm spending way too much time. I already cost us a lot of critical minutes there or seconds. VCRX, guys, let's look at this. Horrible. We've seen this before. It doesn't trade very well. TJX, this is TJ Maxx, right? So looks like earnings, the only time they really move. I mean, 2 years ago I traded this and it did okay. And probably was on earnings, maybe, big possible. We'll have to see. I'm not a fan of it, guys. As you can see, nothing. What say it?
I was just gonna say I don't shop there and I don't trade the stock.
It's brutal. It's brutal. I don't have anything that I like on my main list. DWAC this morning. This was crazy yesterday, right? You had the huge gap up to 100, and then just gave it all back. Really pre-market. Pre-market gave it all right back at the market open. You had one single drop that would have been a good scalp. opportunity. Then after that, you just kind of get this zigzag action. Not a whole lot going on. I think today you're just not going to see much happening. I think the fun was yesterday if you were able to take some in the pre-market, which was scary, by the way, because the way this thing was moving, and you're just not getting anything now. So JMIA, wow. Are these all retail companies reporting? Is that what it is? Is JMIA a retail company or no?
GMIA is like a internet retailer for Africa based out
Okay.
of Germany.
All right, I see
I've
here.
never liked this. It IPO'd. It had some issues a while back. They had earnings this morning. It's just,
Man, this is
I've never liked it. I don't like it, especially under $10.
Yeah, I remember this stretch here was very active, and even then, it was scary to trade. It was one that you really had to, strap on every time you took a trade on that thing. All right, guys, let's stop here. Norm, anything you like on your end this morning?
I mean, I'm just going to have to go with the same kind of stuff that we've spoken about recently. Facebook, NVIDIA, Roku.
Yeah.
I think Roku can have some beast mode today after how it did yesterday. So I'll stick with those for now and let others call other stuff out.
Yeah,
Peter will be happy. I'll call out AMD for him.
There we go.
It's more of a market proxy than anything else.
Yeah, guys, on this list, not a lot that's great. NVIDIA has been wonderful. Facebook had, we'll have to see how that's going to turn out. Just continues to drop here. When you think you found the bottom, it creates another one. So we'll see here. Apple and AMD, as Norm mentioned, they've just been trading well. They're not really heavily in play, except for Apple. Apple has 1 million shares traded, but again, we continue to see this weird situation where it's not registered down here. So we'll see. All right, guys, let's take it to the room. See what you guys have this morning. Let's start with our chat room, and we'll go ahead and look at Fabio. You're giving us a few there. I'm going to just take Microsoft. We'll look at that first. Microsoft this morning, again, very similar to Apple, AMD, and NVIDIA, right? They just are moving with the overall market if anything's happening. But right now, pretty flat, not much going on. Again, they got this 1.1 million. I'm not sure how that's being recorded there, but not a whole lot happening there. I'll look at DKNG for you. Actually, no, we have DKNG already. It's already here. Had a good last couple of days with some increase in volume. Let's see if that's going to determine anything as far as closing this gap. We'll love to see this break out higher. Maybe it was an overreaction the last 2 days. Who knows? But we'll see how DKNG plays out in the next couple of days. Norm, you did mention Roku, and I forgot to look at it. Let's take a look here. I love the last 2 days on this, right? We clearly gap down, have been a trending higher, slowly closing this gap. Not much going on right now, but it's definitely my top possible. I think in the next coming days, this could be a good one to watch. Heading down, Roku is good. We got that one. OSTK we have on deck, so thank you guys. That's under my risky pile all the way down here, up 23%. Very, very active. Very, very risky this morning. Not a low flow, but you got to be careful. Let's look at Michael. You're giving us TDOC. TDOC is that health thing, I believe. But
Teladoc.
Yeah, it doesn't trade well, man. We looked at this before. It trades very thin.
It traded exceptionally well at the beginning of COVID. However, it's fallen from 300 plus, I believe, just over 300.
Yeah.
To 65.
Yeah. No, it's so again, it doesn't trade good. Today they have something going on. They seem to be very more active than usual. But for the most part, I hope we can find something a little bit better. Adam, let's look at PLTR. PLTR this morning.
They had earnings last night, by the way, so they will be better than normal, but I still don't know.
Yeah, it's still not the best. But yeah, we'll see how this plays out here. Earnings, they got 1 million shares traded right now, at least being shown here. Last couple of days have not been great, so maybe overextended on the daily towards the downside. That can help them a little bit if the earnings are received well at the bell. So I like that one for today. But again, we know how bad and how choppy that stock can be. It just pushes volume around, never really gets going. Piano Tech, you're giving us a
PLTR. You're talking about earnings?
Yeah, PLTR.
They reported earnings like a week ago.
Oh, I thought you said they reported earnings. My bad. Sorry about that.
I was talking about Teladoc.
Oh, sorry. I had to switch over to PLTR. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. No, it's all good. So good. So Teledoc, did we even add Teledoc? No, I didn't even add it here. But POTR, we'll keep it on here. We'll see what it does. Baba, Baba was so bad yesterday. I'm sorry. Let me not skip Piano Tech. Piano Tech, you're giving us a few here. 10 Roblox and DKG. DKG we have. We'll look at 10. Oh,
Where's Phil? We
uh,
need Phil.
but before we get Phil, this is a Piano. This is a no. Number 10 here. TEN. No good, my friend. This is not a 10. This is like a -5 as far as a watch list goes. So yeah, that's no good here. It looks like a buyout.
It's going private, so essentially
Yeah.
the same thing.
So you're wasting time if you're gonna watch. That's just nothing is going to happen there. Roblox. No, I think they had a couple of really good days here, moving sideways right now. I don't see
5
anything
minutes.
great.
My lord, that's bad.
Yeah, it's really bad. We definitely seen better on that. And,
I mean, I don't blame you guys this morning. I won't laugh. We're
slim pickings.
we're at the bottom of the bucket trying to find some things. I'm sure with as much volatility and macro news that we have going on, we'll have plenty of stuff to trade. But doing this the traditional way off this watch list today is no.
I agree. Guys, we'll look at Baba and Futu next. We'll take it over to YouTube, see if there's anything fun going on there. Futu, no good. We'll skip on that one. Baba this morning, it was horrible yesterday. I don't see anything explosive today. So I'm just gonna keep it off my list for now, guys. So, and we'll see if that gets any better. YouTube, anything that we have not covered yet that's not on this list that you like this morning?
I'm seeing OCGN. I don't think we looked at that. Everything else we pretty much have.
All right, let's take a look at OCGN. Let's take a look here. OCGN. It's got some volume, 2.8. Man, I don't like this stock at this price though. This $3, $5. I didn't like it before that much, and I like it much less as it continues to drop the price here. I like things above $10, $15, $20, man. I don't know. This price here is just for me, it's just the price actually is a bit different, right? I'm not a fan of it, guys, to be honest. I'm gonna skip this one for the way I trade. If you like this one, it looks like it's in play, has 2.8 million shares traded, down 20%. But again, these stocks under $5, $10, I'm not a fan of, especially this one, because even when it was a higher price, it just didn't trade well for me. Bank of America, we'll stop in two. We'll go to announcements. We'll come back and fine tune the little bit that looks decent this morning. Bank of America, no, it's not in play. I don't see anything good. MSTR, definitely a no here. No, this is nothing happening there. SQ, no, SQ doesn't look great this morning. And we'll look at CCL for the last one here today. No, not in play, guys. And again, as Norm said, we understand there's not a lot that's in play today. And that's okay. We'll look at the stuff that we've been looking at that has volume. Like you look at NVIDIA, for example, that looks decent, right? Facebook looks very good. It has an incredible daily. Apple looks nice. Good pre-market action. AMD.
Go back to Facebook.
Yeah. Yeah.
That massive gap down. And, usually we see some kind of a bounce at some point.
Nothing.
And this thing is just straight to the metaverse.
People are not loving Facebook at all. You're absolutely right. Like here, I thought, okay, you know what? Now we're gonna come back.
Yeah, 210ish. People try to get in. No.
Yeah. It's just not happening. Try to hold 210. It's interesting, but I believe, again, my personal opinion, we are gonna bounce here. And then I said nothing. Who knows? Someday we'll bounce.
I mean, that's why I got to tell you. That's primarily why it's still on my. It's been on my list the last few days. I do anticipate, and I'm not trying to pick when that is or what that level it is. Right. But I do anticipate it will bounce at some point and have some good trades. I just don't know when that will be.
Yeah.
Especially since it's on that downtrend and we've got all the negative news crossing the wires.
Yes, exactly. All right, guys, let's stop here. We'll have time towards the end to talk a little bit more, maybe get to some questions and think about stuff that you might be wanting to ask, and we can get to those because it looks like it's going to be an early day today. Let's get over to our community events and announcements, and we'll come back, fine-tune this list, and then we'll chat a little bit before we go to our live trading.
All right, next Monday, the Our tech webinar for next Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern, is Ed talking about journaling trades. And don't forget, every Monday we have Carlos doing onboarding at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So let's see here. Last night was Eamon doing his breakouts webinar. Next Tuesday at 8 p.m., the normal time, Peter is going to talk about his lightning bolt pattern strategy. So he's done a couple webinars on that. And every time we get a new one, it's refined and better and a further distilled Peter. So looking forward to seeing that one. All right. Tonight, 5 p.m. Eastern, we've got Creda talking about taking fear of holding a trade or taking a trade or holding a trade, taking the pain out of that. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention Dr. Reed next week. He's going to be talking about avoiding the trading trance, which is real and contributes to going on tilt. So anyway, that will be next week. Mentorship Thursday. I don't know if Andrew will be doing his. He is traveling right now. First trip he's taken since like December. So he'll be in Argentina by then, but I don't know what his schedule is yet. So we might have somebody cover that. And then Ed at 4 o'clock and 4:30 is his mentoring in the room. Thor, 8 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget about stocktradingsimulator.com, where you can go. It's a web-based replay simulator we have developed. It is free. No need to pay anything, and you can sign up for emails that you'll get homework assignments a couple times a week. We don't sell that list. We don't spam it. You just get a couple email assignments per week. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, first of all, sincerely appreciate it. If you hit that like button, it really does help us out. But if you'd like to try out the room, you can go to bearbulltraders.com, scroll down about halfway down the page, click the Test Drive Now button, sign up, use the promo code PREMARKET24. It'll get you a discount off the intro membership, which is 7 calendar days, 5 trading days in the room. Does not recur, does not charge you again, just that one-time payment. And if you'd like to become an elite member, gain access to all the awesome webinars that I just described and that we do every week all year long, use the promo code LOVERS50 to get half off the elite annual membership, not elite animal like a liger.
All right, thank you, Norm.
Or a
Guys,
zonkey.
Let's get to it here.
I have a zonkey that lives across the road from me.
Oh, you do, for real?
Yeah, a zonkey. It's awesome.
Nice.
It's a striped ass. All right.
All right, guys, let's get to it. Our list this morning: NVIDIA, Facebook, Apple, AMD, and PLTR. Trying to break out here. Funky pre-market activity. Let's see what it does there. 1.3 million, higher than usual volume. More of a possible, but we'll see where that goes. All right, here it is. NVIDIA, guys. Let's get rid of some of the levels we did in the last couple of days, because now our highs and lows from the last 2 trading days are overlapping some of those, right? You can see here, for example, the highs from yesterday. Look how beautiful that level is right there. And then you have the low from yesterday also doing a nice thing here around 230, right? That was the lows from the last 2 days, actually finding some support here. We're gapping up a little bit this morning, 2%. Let's see how this is going to play out. So high of the pre-market this morning on NVIDIA sitting at 239.48.
Since it's a little slow, I just I just shared a picture of what a zonkey looks like. You can pull that up, and it's cute as can be.
No, it's amazing. I know this because of my my son and the books he reads. That's the only reason why I know that. If not, I would have no idea. There it is, guys. That's amazing. You have one across, man. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And I know a lot about dinosaurs too. That's well, so a ton. It's incredible. All right, here we go, guys. NVIDIA levels are good there. I think it's surrounded highs and lows of the last 2 trading days. Oh boy. And here we go. Let's go to Facebook.
About eating a zonkey.
There's some fun happening for those on YouTube. There's some fun happening in our chat here with the comments. Facebook, guys, highs and lows on the last 2 trading days. Low of the pre-market on Facebook. We're sitting at 203.51. And I think that's all you really need to put here, guys. I don't think you need to add anything else on Facebook. low of the pre-market. If you look at this, you are pretty much set. Looking good pre-market, just trying to make a new high here. Let's see if it's able to do that. I know we actually, you know what? I know we marked down the high of the pre-market, but this here, this 204.77, you have a lot more action and stuff happening here. 204.77. So you mark that there. There's some resistance going on at that level. Here is Apple. Great volume right now. As far as levels, we're going to remove the ones from yesterday, overlapping some highs and lows. If I add the low of the pre-market, I think you're pretty much set 165.06, and you are good to go there. Here's AMD, very similar story as well. Again, we're stuck between the highs and lows of the last 2 trading days, just because the way the market's been trading. And if you look at the stocks, you compare them to the SPY on their daily, they look very similar to what the SPY has been doing, right? So they look very similar daily wise. So they kind of stuck within the highs and lows of the last 2 trading days. No surprise there. AMD, your high 118.60, your low 116.74, and I think you're set there. Towards the top on AMD, you can add one level, which will be right here, 121.72. You also got some moving averages that coming in here as well on the daily. POTR right now, again, just getting funky activity, right? This was nice here. The volume was good. Now it's just kind of, look how spotty this thing is trading. So it's got to get better than that. This is more of a possible. I'm probably going to move it down and move something else up. 1088, high of the pre-market. And then outside of that, you have the highs and lows from the last 2 trading days. And I don't think you need to add anything else. But again, just the funky pre-market activity on this is just weird. Hopefully that can get better market open, but we know how bad this one can trade at times. Even with volume, it can be so choppy. So I'm going to move them down to a possible. Let's see what happens if it's worth bringing it up. All right, as far as our secondary list, it's going to go through this quickly. I have TJ Maxx here. They had earnings, so we'll see how they play out, right? TJ Maxx, just want to make sure I'm not mixing things up. TJ Maxx, yes, earnings, February, yep, earnings. KOD, I mean, this thing dropped 76%. This is our entertainment stock. I don't think this is going to be tradable today. We'll have to see how it plays out. Space, possibility there. They got some news. We'll see Lowe's earnings as well. SoFi, nothing happening there. Yeah, Mara, I'm going to remove. I'm just not a fan of that one. DKNG, I like DKNG actually. I'm going to move DKNG up. I think this can, if the market allows it, this can turn into a nice continuation type play. It can. Not saying it will, but it has the potential. Had a big gap down yesterday. This is kind of what we expect when these stocks gap down like this, right? A little bit of overreaction, maybe a little bit of recovery. We got that. Unlike Facebook, did not do this. We'll see. We'll see if this is going to continue or not on DKNG. But I think worth putting on the main list this morning. It's not ready yet, but hopefully a market opening can get ready. And then we just got a few possibles down here. We'll see how those are going to play out. Again, not much looking great. Let's take a look at OSTK. What's happening there? Wow, what a weird pre-market activity on OSTK. So you had the initial pop here with some good volume. You're sitting at 1.1 million this morning. This thing is on short selling restriction because of the sell-off it has had the last couple of days, right? Mainly yesterday. So that's why it's on short selling restriction this morning. And then we're up 23%. Nice pop here and just going sideways. So interesting. Now, I don't know the answer to this, but I wonder, maybe Norm might know the answer to this. If we are sitting on short selling restriction because of yesterday's action and how much we dropped, and now we're up 24%, what triggers the short selling restriction to be turned off? I don't know the answer to that, but if you do, we'd love to hear your answer on that. That's interesting because technically we're up now, right? I know. I wonder if that is when does that get turned off there? Okay, guys. We are all set. Very short list this morning, and most of it is not really in play on its own.
I hear you summon me.
No, I was just asking, and you might know the answer to this. You know when a stock goes on SSR, right? Short selling restriction. Yep. It's based on the day before dropping, what is it, 7%?
No, if it drops 10% from the previous day close in that day, it goes on SSR. It'll stay on SSR the next day too.
Right. So when does that get turned off? For example, this one is up 24% today.
So if Monday it drops 10%, it'll be SSR Tuesday. This is the current rules. They do change sometimes. When we've been in really nasty markets, they've tweaked SSR rules to try to slow drops down. But Keep in mind, it's currently 10% drop. You hit SSR that instant, and then the next day. So if Monday it does that, SSR would be the remainder of Monday after it hits 10%. Also
Right.
on Tuesday, it would be an SSR. Wednesday, it should be back to normal.
Got it. So regardless of
Given
the
it
gapping
doesn't
up
drop
today,
10% more on Tuesday.
right, then it'll reset again.
Yeah.
Right. So even if this thing goes up 50%, it'll still be on SSR until tomorrow.
Yep.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Thank you, man. All right, if you didn't know, now you know. There it is. All right, guys, let's take a look at any questions anyone might have. We have a couple of minutes here. We're all set with our watch list. OSTK continues to take off here after consolidating at 45, now at 46. Got some really good action happening here. Just again, be very careful, guys, on that one. Let's take a look. Start with our chat. Anything that we can answer. We can also look at some tickers. I see a couple of messages on here. Thank you, Lee. Appreciate that as well. Neo.
I can't answer that, Andy.
I haven't read Andy's question yet. Neo, no, nothing great on Neo. What is Andy asking?
I'm not going to repeat that in the
No, we
room.
can't repeat that. No, we can't repeat that. All right, let's see here. Scroll to the top. What do we have, guys? Ford. What do I think about Ford? I think the fun is over. I think the fun is over.
Ford's the new Allo, where they're just messing with us to pull something up. Ford hasn't been in play like, with the exception of one day here, one day there, for 4 years, 3 years that we've been doing this show, and
it is no good. It's look at Allo.
It's in play for 3 days, and they're going to bring it up every morning for the next year.
Yeah. And I hope you're not bringing it up because you're long on this from 25. I hope that's not the case because I used to do that.
No.
I used to be stuck in a trade. No, not Allo.
Just bring it up.
Talk about just Facebook. Not Facebook. Ford. I used to be stuck in trades back in the days when I was just a horrible, no discipline trader, and I'll start looking at things online. Okay, what's the earnings? What's the expectation? Like once you start doing that, you know you're in a bad situation. When you start looking up a company to see what the ratings,
justify your crappy
based
on analyst ratings and fundamentals.
Exactly. Oh, I've done that so many times. Done that.
I've never. The one sin I've never made is turned a day trade into a swing trade.
Yeah, I have. And my biggest loss was not even that. My biggest loss was just on one day, right? Obviously, is brutal. All right, what else we have, guys? We have time. We have about a couple of minutes, 6 minutes or so. We can answer any questions you might have. We'll get to our moderators lineup in just a second. We'll wait for more to come up. And I see their list also very thin this morning. Again, it's just one of those days where we have to sit and wait where the volume is going to appear. Over on YouTube, if you have any questions as well, you can send them here. We'll take a look at them. Guys, if you haven't done so already on YouTube, please hit that thumbs up. We're sitting at 186 likes. We love to be over at 250, 300 is our sweet spot. So we'll appreciate you guys helping us get there.
No runs. Longtime member saying Saint Norm. No, that's not what I'm saying. Just because I haven't murdered anybody doesn't mean I haven't committed the 9 other sins. That's just the one thing I haven't done.
Yeah, we all have our demons, right? When it comes to trading, everyone has a different situation. Carlos, is there ever a point where you take everything off at 2R? No, I don't. I don't do it by R, man. I explained this before, so I don't spend too much time on it. I do it on price action. Sometimes the price action tells me, you know what, take a partial here, and we might not even be at 1R, you know. Or maybe the price, based on the price action, moves 1.5 Rs. I'll take a partial there. So I'm not calculating it by Rs, right? But we can spend a whole segment on that.
God.
What we have here. If time permits, could you explain how do you use turbo breakup and turbo breakdown scanners in looking for strategy? I'm assuming you mean. Thanks in advance. I mean, the turbo breakup and breakdown just give you what's moving with volume heavily in one direction, right? So it's just what the scanners do, overall picture. They identify what's moving with volume. Then you got to just tune into that stock and see if any of your setups are showing up, right? You don't just take the scanners and just say, oh, this is turbo breakup, I'm going to go long.
Absolutely.
You know, you don't do that. It's like the news. You don't take the news, positive news, just go long or short. you let that create volatility for you. You bring it up to your scanners, to your charts, and then you see there's an opportunity. That's the way how you're using that. You know, and sometimes there is. Sometimes there is. But I noticed though, once it hits that scanner, you have to wait for a pullback. Most often than not, you got to wait for a pullback. If you decide to go in on that, you're probably too late to the party. You know, you might get lucky and get the run continuation, but you gotta wait for the setup. Um, nice 235. Thank you guys over on YouTube. Appreciate that very very much.
Yeah.
What specific strategies do you like to trade with usually ABCD pattern reversal? No, what is your
I mean, I
strategy?
trade some reversal strategies. They're not always. You know, the thing about reversals is they'll kill you if you get them wrong and you don't know what you're doing. I mean, we were talking about biggest losses a few minutes ago. Mine was a reversal I didn't give up on and added into.
Yeah, same here.
And things
Mine
can.
was reversal.
I mean, it was like I was too new to recognize an all-day fade and added into it. Lost my ass. That was on Xilinx a few years ago. What strategies do I like? So I do trade some reversals. I'm just very careful with them. But predominantly breakouts, opening range breakouts.
Same thing here.
Break high of
Reversals
day.
and breakouts.
I mean, middle of the day breakouts. John refers to it like break high of day or break low of day. You know, I just consider them breakouts.
Yeah, and under breakouts, guys, we're also talking about the open range 5-minute breakup or breakdown. Those fall under that breakout type strategy.
I mean, if you go over and, you know, YouTube, we don't talk about it a lot, but we also have a second chat room in here, and that's Ed Martin, Average Joe Trader. He is just phenomenal at breakout trades, especially later in the day, seeing setups and stuff and being able to recognize if something's going to break out. And his ability to pick targets is just unbelievable. You know, come in here if you haven't with the try. If you're a member and you haven't been in his room, check it out for a day. It's completely different than this room. It's phenomenal. And if you come in with a trial, you can go over to Ed's room and check it out as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the trial membership, guys, 7 days, you get access to both chat rooms and a couple of courses and webinars. So definitely take advantage of that. And it's you can use Premarket 24 to get a discount on it. So definitely take advantage of that. All right, excellent. What else do we have, guys? We're right here. Let's go to our moderators lineup. Let's come over here, see what our moderators look like. Let me resize this over here as I'm doing this.
I'm just going to pick one thing out because we're running out of time here, and I know you're going to go through that. But as you get to the top of the watch list, Imran's saying over on YouTube, if I had 20 strategies, reversal late in the day would be the last one on the list. No, I agree with you completely, with a few rare exceptions, that reversal time is really about 10 o'clock to 11 o'clock Eastern. I don't mess with them after that because a lot of times they've reversed. If they're going to reverse, they'll reverse then. And they good chance they might trend the rest of the day. Trying to catch a reversal on those later in the day can be very tough. Sometimes with exception, sometimes you'll get days where the whole, especially in down markets and it's starting to turn around on Fridays, you'll see an uptick late in the day in the overall market. You can get some good trades, but that's something you can't count on. So.
Yeah, agree 100% with that as well.
And Jared makes a good point. You need a market catalyst for that a lot of times. And the news that the macro going on changed the whole market decisively a couple of times yesterday that you could have traded. So, but that's, those don't happen too often.
Yeah. Guys, let's take a look at our moderators lineup. Let's start with, make sure I didn't miss anyone. No, we're good. Starting with Thor. He's looking at the overall market, Apple, Bank of America, and SQ. Secondary list, OSTK, very risky, guys. Be careful with that one. Lowe's and PLTR. Susan is looking at her favorite list today is the market, overall market, AMD, NVIDIA, and then secondary list, Tesla, Lucid, and Apple this morning. Dima is looking at Facebook, AMD, and Apple. No IPOs today. We got one SPAC opening up there, as Peter is informing us. And then Peter's list, AMD, DKNG, Facebook, And then secondary list 4 space Zoom ZM and then KOD for fun. KOD is that crazy stock that is down 78% this morning. Tiffany's looking at AMD, Nvidia. Secondary list TJX. Megan is looking at Facebook and Starbucks. And Jared OSTK, Lowe's, Facebook, and Facebook, I guess. And secondary list just the crypto markets as well. So that is our list today, guys. We have Brian coming up next. Sorry?
Peter, I know and love, would never put KOD on his list, even for fun.
You know, I don't think he's going to trade it. I don't think he's going to really be looking at that. That's not his style at all. So he'll definitely shock us both if he does that. All right, guys. We are all set to go. Thank you so much. Oh, hold on a second. Buzzer beater coming in here. 2 of them. We got 2 more. We have Brian coming in with his list. DKNG, Dunking Khan, as he calls that one. OSTK, MNDY, and TJX for now. He's still preparing some more stuff. He'll be on the mic in a second in the chat. We'll run through that. And then Mike is looking at Lowe's and Facebook today. So, guys, there you have it on YouTube. Thank you so much. Appreciate the likes, guys. 268. Thank you for that. Take care. Have an amazing day. We'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 a.m. starting with Jared engineering the markets. Again, have an amazing day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Take care, guys. Trade safe.